Alright guys, so I decided to do a video today. I'm going to mix it with positive and negative simply because the way things are at the minute, it's very hard to keep the two apart because with so much negative stuff going on, we need to try and get it back on track with the positives. So we'll start off with the government stuff. I've actually written stuff down because this is the fifth time I've started this video, then gone off on a tangent myself. So the Sunak in the Conservatories obviously nosedive in this election. I've got to say, from my personal perspective, I think they actually want to lose because they're probably in a position where they can't actually fix anything. And as some people, I mean, the Lotus Eater just mentioned it today actually, that they all work for the same people. I know it sounds very, what do you call it, conspiracy theory. But I've got to admit, my path on all of this is based on the old yin and yang. Conservative and Labour, doesn't matter, they head up the middle, they just swing one way and then the other. So it doesn't matter what you or I want, 1 minute it's what you want, 1 minute it's not. And the problem is we've had a lot of what you don't want for a long time now. So I think they're actually stepping back, and I think 80 MPs are currently not standing at the next election because they don't expect to win. In fact, they're throwing in the towel from what I can see. So what's my point on this? This is the same as the immigration stuff. These are things that are just there. You're not going to change them. You're not going to influence them. You are not going to be able to have a positive impact on any of this stuff beyond yourself. So I look at it from another perspective. Somebody asked me, this is how I dealt with tangent, off on tangent last time. So I'm going to make a note so I'll come back to what I'm actually talking about. Right, so I'm going to talk about before, because where you've got the immigration stuff at the minute, and where you've got the state of the government, the living crisis, and all the other stuff that's going on. Before politics, because then I can loop round back. I've got to write it down because I won't forget it. There's a few things that happened to me when I was younger. Not in a Catholic priest church thing. As a small boy, choir boy. No, I was in Ireland as a kid after Bloody Sunday. My father and his unit were put in there after the Paras. We had some experiences there, you know, even as a young kid. I remember looking up the road, I was sitting there with a little action man. I remember the action man because the neighbour had the frogman guy, because he had the little boat, and they had because we actually sat outside playing in the puddle with the frogman and stuff. But I remember watching the top of the road with the truck being on fire, and then you can see the petrol bombs, because they put the truck across the road, blocking the road, and then they're throwing the petrol bombs over the truck to the soldiers with all the riot gear and everything, trying to retake the street. Not on our street, it's just like literally, if you imagine looking up a high street, it's going across you. So, you know, we're a sort of the equivalent of a T-junction. But the fact is, it's more like a cone, because we're on a terrace road, so then there's another terrace road and another terrace road, and this is the adjoining road along the top. So that's going across the front of us. There's other stuff my dad used to do back in those days I'm not even allowed to talk about, so I'm not even going to get into that sort of stuff. But they were far more difficult times. We're in Germany. I'll go through a few events in Germany, and the reason I'm doing this is to sort of show you times weren't as good before. It's all about perspective. Our annual leave, my father's annual leave to go back to the UK, it was a family holiday to go, because we normally go back to Scotland on holiday back then, was cancelled because there'd been an IRA attack. I can't remember which one it was, but we were actually due to go on the ferry that become the Zeebrugge disaster. We also had things like the discussion around number plates in Germany, because the army, did they change? Because the army plates used to be a different number plate. Because if you're over in Germany, you had a different plate, which basically signalled to terrorists and whatever, come and shoot me, I'm associated with the military. And that's where there was a debate when some squaddies were actually ambushed at traffic lights by the IRA. And I think that's what led up to the Gibraltar IRA being hit by the SAS. The point being is, my childhood was a bit more complex than a lot of the people have in the UK. Used to check the car in the morning. We used to have a wing mirror in the boot. It'd be an old truck wing mirror on a stick. Just go and check under the car for explosives in the morning. We had soldiers on the bus every time the alert levels went up. Went through the Berlin Wall piece with the British Go Home protests. Yeah, it's been a few things over the years that I've experienced. So I'm not, at the moment, I don't see a lot of these things as difficult as where we are now. Sorry, where we are now is anywhere near as difficult as it was then. There was a lot of stuff going on then. But then you go back to things like the miners' strikes and things like that, and the turmoil of the UK back then, and the recessions and other problems that were in the economy that we're nowhere near as bad as it was. Doesn't mean we're not going to get there again. We are trying really hard. So the government's trying really hard. The big problem at the moment is, for me, is the economy is unstable. Now, the reality is the money isn't the way it used to be. So this is, if you look at fractional reserves and the manipulation on how funds are created out of thin air now, it's a model that will exist for a period of time. How long, we'll see. But in theory, it's not really printing money like literally there's a pallet full of money. It's more on the computer screen. Got a mortgage? Bang. But you can review that stuff yourself and you'll see how far the economy is not as linked as it should be. So that's a big worry, the financial aspects of that. The immigration thing is a problem because the immigration is a devaluation of the population. There was an interesting thing somebody did on, I think it's Uber Eats or one of those things, where the rate should actually mirror or be better than the national average. For your minimum wage, etc. But in reality, it's probably a half or a third because there are so many people doing these jobs. So because they don't include waiting time. So if you got 3 people doing a job of 1, bizarrely, you get 1/3 of the income. And that's what's going on. And those jobs I call stepping stone jobs. They're important jobs. Why? Well, I paid for my own education. I put myself through school. Everything I've got, I've worked for. I didn't start at this pinnacle point. I started a long time ago doing crappy jobs and worked my way through it. When I become a carpenter, I didn't start as a carpenter. I started as a drawer maker. I used to make drawers for furniture. Then I started making the cabinets, the wardrobes, and then could make all sorts of furniture. Then moved into housing, building timber frame housing. Then I moved from timber frame housing into exhibition work. And then I could pretty much build anything, carpentry, aluminium, you name it, because I become very experienced in it. But it started with the draw making. Starts with the low skill jobs to work your way up. Education, there's too many people thinking doing a graduate course of nonsense that they're entitled to be the head of a company somewhere. And we're starting to see that bubble burst. You know, this woke stuff where you're seeing companies starting to rein it in. Suddenly see Google laying off thousands of people, etc. You have to look at who they're laying off. And you'll find a lot of it is around getting rid of the people that don't actually need and have low functionality, low abilities, low skills, etc. Everything's connected. So if you flood an economy with a lot of cheap labour, low skilled labour, you're actually damaging your higher skilled labour as well, because they come from these jobs. Because the way I see it, and you don't have to always agree with me, there's a lot of people that start in these jobs at graduate level with no knowledge, no experience, no ability, empathy, so many things they haven't got. And when I worked with Carillion a long time ago, I found that a lot of people in that business were ex-Navy officers, ex-Navy engineers, etc. They were time served, experienced, etc. And you have the ability to gel, because you can go in and have a conversation with people and they know what they're talking about, they know you know what you're talking about, etc., etc. This is why I gel very well with engineers, because they understand that I have an engineering background. It's very evident when I have a conversation with people that they go, oh, he knows what he's talking about. The same with the surveying. I mean, if you looked at my LinkedIn, you'll see there's a lot of people on there that are lifecycle managers, asset managers, surveyors. Not so many architects, because they're a different breed. But the fact is, you've got a lot of people that have the knowledge and experience and can see the overlaps and understand where you're coming from when you start getting technical and stuff. A lot of the problems we got now is you're finding a lot of these graduate program things, like the course I'm doing now, which is why I'm sitting there looking and saying no wonder things are so bad. You got people that we're flooding with cheap graduates with low abilities, and then people like myself are starting to move out, retire, go and do somewhere else, live by the sea. And that gap on the engineering sector widened drastically with the demise of Carillion, because a lot of people retired, they took early retirement, etc. And then you had the COVID where people thought, I don't really want to go to work every day. The house, we paid the, when did we pay the mortgage off? Oh, 15 years ago. Do you know what? I think we'll just go get a part-time job in Tesco's and just pop around. And people have been. So you end up with an industry that is flooded with low-skilled people. Problem you've got now is we've got, like, your Uber drivers and whatever have been saturated with people that often shouldn't actually be here from a legal perspective, which hinders a lot of people being able to work their way up for a progression path. And you say, well, whoa. What's an Uber driver got to do with being a manager, an electrician, an engineer, etc.? Because you can do your course and earn some money. You do your Uber bit at night. I mean, when I was a kid, I used to work in a nightclub. That was to help pay my bills, because I didn't have a lot of money. So I went to college during the week, but I worked in a nightclub on the nights. These are jobs that are now being filled with others, which also means it damages the economy. And that doesn't include all the other resources that go into it, such as the lack of dentists and stuff now. And bear in mind, I'm entitled to the NHS because I pay my way, but I don't use it. I use my dentist here in Spain. I use the doctor here in Spain. Oh, you're taking out the Spanish economy? No, I'm not. The private healthcare here. I don't use the NHS. I work with the NHS, but I don't do anything healthcare orientated. That's another story relating to the demise of both my parents and the misdiagnosis of both by a certain clinic in St John's, Worcester. So my point being is, a lot of stuff was worse before, in the sense of things happening. Yes, we get the odd attack here and there, but I think a lot of the time the responses are much more after what happened to London. I think the police are a lot more switched on, especially and the security services. I don't think they sit back as much. So I do think that I would hazard a guess that the risk levels have not dropped. I think that the intelligence levels have gone up, and I don't mean that in people doing university challenge. I just mean the access to information, which means they can stop a lot of stuff before it gets that far. So I do think GCHQ, Cheltenham, etc., is probably doing a great job, whether we like it or not, when they're in our WhatsApp and our Yahoo chats. But I do think they actually have an important role to play, and I do think they actually assist in preventing a lot of stuff happening. So I'm not going to knock GCHQ, at least not today. But this is one of the things you've got to do, is sit and analyse what you want out of this, because you cannot fix what Rishi Sunak's doing. He's nose diving the economy. Well, sorry, not the economy. The Conservatives. 80 Conservatives are not going up to the next election. They're already sort of pulling out, so they're saying they're not going to stand. They already know it's going to be a wipeout. So the whole going to the Titanic, where the Titanic was built, PR nonsense for some reason. Stand there like a drowned dog. PR, and you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why would he do that? You tell me. I mean, you tell me why he did it. If it wasn't for a PR stunt to sort of push them further down the pecking order, in the sense of, let's walk away from this, guys. Let others in. Cupboards bare. Economy's a mess. Next load will make it worse, and then we'll come back later. All is forgiven. Almost like the economy does that all the time, and the politics with the whole yin and yang piece. Matt, you're so cynical. So yeah, my view on it is there's not a lot we can do about it. It's the same as my view on the immigration is very simple. I don't think they actually benefit the British economy. The whole point of, there's more older people now, I think that's nonsense as well. I live in Spain. This area has an average age of 68. It functions. There's low crime here because nobody could be bothered. They'll get arthritis trying to run away. The reality is, if the economy's stable, it doesn't matter how old people are. Bringing more people in means that there'll be more people in the future that are older. Let's face it. If you downscale an economy, downscale a population shrinkage does not mean the end of the world. There is Spanish villages that are empty and for sale for like €100,000 for the entire village because nobody lives there. Is it the end of the world? Absolutely not. Worst case scenario out those places is that nature takes it over. Boo-hoo, what a sob story. Nothing wrong with it. Isn't this what we're supposed to be doing? If you listen to Attenborough and whatever, it's a dumb argument. We don't want more people. We want less. Oh, you're going down Prince Charles's route of wanting to control the population of the world. Population decline, there's nothing wrong with it. If it's a natural occurrence, it's a natural occurrence. Don't worry about it. If people are so unhappy they don't have kids, guess what? Make them happy. It's the same as the argument on, the whites in Europe aren't having enough children, blah blah blah. So what? If you look at where boomers come from, the baby boomers, that was after World War II, after people had been through hell. It's surprising how, if you drag something low enough, these things correct themselves. History always does it. That will always be my argument on this. I don't think we need to import anybody. Yeah, that's my view on it. Because we'll go on forever otherwise. It's already 20 minutes. I've only got... That's only point one. Point two, we'll move on to bad work environments now. Bad work environments, I've got to admit, the last few years, the companies I've been with have been far more difficult than I've experienced elsewhere, ever. And I think some of this is the rise of the graduates, and B, followed up with the over promotion of people as these companies deteriorated. I'm not going to mention the company's name. I could do, but going back, it's probably 5 years now, I went in to deal with a company that was in, it had some massive problems. I found a £20 million hole in their finances. But the bigger picture behind the money being missing is every time I went somewhere, you found somebody had recently moved into a role, and although I was there to deal with the finances and fix their financial models and stuff, they wanted to know how to do stuff that was actually part of their job, because there was nobody left in the business that knew how to do it anymore. The entire accounts department, which all fired at some point, along with the commercial department, their view was, well, there's no problem because the accounts are fine. What do they mean fine? Well, nothing had been processed, because nobody knew how to process anything. So they hadn't got a debt, and they hadn't got so no contractors needed paying, so nobody had been paid, so there was no debt deficit. But you still get the money from the contract, which is more of an automated payment. So for example, say you were running a schools contract, you might get, say, £120,000-300,000 a month as a lump sum across a contract, which is a set figure every month. So that's sort of set on, say, a 25-year contract, which is renewed at different periods, but reality is 300,000 every month. So in reality, they're sitting there going, look at all this money we've got in the bank account. But in reality, I found contractors that haven't been paid for 18 months. I've found people were altering the payments. So although it said originally it was due 18 months ago, they kept changing the receiving date to this month, which is fraud. While others sat in their job roles saying, we haven't got a problem. And the whole issue is they changed from SAP to Oracle, or Oracle to SAP. So basically changed their accounting software and never updated anybody. That then created this problem with the guys that managed the contracts, because they didn't know how to process it. They upset the contractors. The contractors started pulling out, started doing the legal action piece. The managers then quit because they couldn't deal with the stress. They then promote the supervisors to managers because all the managers left, and then the supervisors then got in the same boat, so they then left, and then you end up with engineers and caretakers and stuff becoming managers with zero training, zero understanding of how to do anything, and just trying to keep things ticking over, because they could order cleaning products or stuff, centrally funded stuff was working. But it was all the stuff relating to complete refurbishment of a toilet block, broken windows, all that sort of stuff that they were having absolute nightmares about, because they couldn't fix anything, because all the companies had blacklisted them. They were all in legal disputes to get people phone them up and give them a load of abuse, and it was all stuff that was out of their control. And you've got the accounts department going, it's not our problem that you don't know how to use our accounting system that we never trained you on. That's pretty much how some of these companies are these days. Although that one sounds a bit extreme, when I go into most companies these days, there is obvious massive holes in whatever it is. See, a lot of the time you'll find when I do asset management, the funds are often driven commercially and not for the needs of the account, and not for the needs of the engineers, and not for the needs of anybody except for the cash cow for the central business, which means you end up with maintenance suffering, buildings declining, a lot of shouting and arguing, and very little looking forward on how to change things. And when you try and present A, the problems, and B, how to fix them, you become the brunt of all hate, because you're going against the central business, and B, you're also going against your local businesses because you're saying you've not maintained these, and they're going, we can't maintain them because we don't know what's wrong, we don't know, blah, blah, you know, you're stuck in the middle. Now I spin on a positive. So in this environment, I suffer with a lot of narcissists, bad bosses, or whatever you want to call them these days from PR perspective. But doing the degree piece, one of the things I found is I'm reading a lot. In fact, 2 seconds. So just put this in perspective. This is probably about a quarter of what I've read in the last 6 months. In fact, no, it's probably about an eighth. So it's about an eighth. I've spent way over the £400 on books. Now, I'll go through these ones quite quickly. This one's like The Leader's Guide to Influence, how to use soft skills to get hard results. This is a good book, and as you can see, even got my marker still in this one, because it's got things like there, work-based relationship models. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is a very good book, by the way. The strategy book, this is another very good one about how to think and act strategically to deliver outstanding results. I'll name them, then I'll go over bits and pieces. Surrounded by Idiots. The 4 types of human behaviour. How to understand those who cannot be understood. Effective business networking. Well, that's my little mouse, little postmarks. I'll put them over there. F work, let's play. Do what you love and get paid for it. Which is slightly off tangent, but how social media can make a stronger leader. If you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see I'm very proactive on there, especially around asset management at the moment. How to thrive in the virtual workplace. Obviously, I've got a nice virtual setup here. Uncommon knowledge. The Economist explains. Not a lot of people know this. How did rainfall affect the fate of Rome's emperors? Who owns what in space? Why is there a world shortage of vanilla? See, the funny thing is that sometimes you've got to think outside the box, because not everything is straight logic. It's like Freakonomics. If you look at Freakonomics, you might find that quite interesting. And these are my latest ones. How to get a job you love. Because one of the things I'm looking at the moment is I am tired of the nonsense I'm dealing with, and I am thinking, do I need to set up a new business? Do I need to change direction? So I take in other people's advice. Then the nine times are difficult people. How to spot them and quickly improve working relationships. Supercharged leader. Develop your mind and skill set to deal with anything. This one, is my current one, which tied in with my college course, Emotional Intelligence, managing emotions to make a positive impact on your life and career. You probably notice a lot of these are tied with personalities, or maybe not. The emotional intelligence one is not more about me, it's actually about dealing with the people around me. Because you can, see, I know I'm very blunt, but at the same time, I've reined it in lately. I say very little these days because I can sit and absorb people, see what they're doing, get everything out of them, because then you can understand where they're coming from, etc. Because one of the problems I've got, like I said, when you're trying to fix things, people become defensive, argumentative, etc. This is why I did a course on product management over project or life cycle, because product is more inclusive. So you're trying to get the solutions and stuff out of everybody else so that everyone's part of it. Why is that? Well, you probably notice I try to work with everybody. This is the whole point of trying to understand everything from everyone's personality. When you get a boss or whatever that's coming to you, arguing with you about stuff you're not even aware of because it's nothing to do with you, because he's had conversations with other people behind your back, and then you're supposed to know whatever it is they're talking about when you haven't managed that section of the business for over 6 months, yet you're fully responsible for whatever they've done. Sometimes that's my working day. And it's how do you interpret it, how do you go back with it, how do you shape it? Because you can walk away, you can get annoyed and go up and deal with the situation, or you step back and think outside the box. And one of the things I notice a lot online is they talk about narcissism and bad bosses, and there's two sort of lines. It's like, how do you work in that environment and it becomes more subservient, or leave? My view is to understand it and try to leverage it. There's always leverage in everything, always. Because if you make yourself indispensable, often you can walk people up the steps. So if you do pull the plug, it's a big drop the other side for others. So you can walk them up if you choose to do that. It may be you think, you know what, all in, I'll go all in and then I'll walk away once something better drops. But when I leave here, it's on a positive note. I created this, everything's fantastic, everything's great. Everyone, even though they don't want to admit it, they know it was me. You can go down that route. The other route is you can create the best that you can be and just filter out the garbage. And that's probably what I'm doing at the minute. Because to be fair, I'm not interested in what they're whinging around at the back. In the back, this is why I don't go to team events that anymore. And people say, "Oh, you shouldn't isolate yourself from the business." Why? It's not productive. You know, for me, there's too many agendas going on to actually be interested in it, and the business is too small to actually go further in the business. So if my part of the business is delivering and doing well, etc., they will only get rid of me if it become noisy, because they only want the delivery, because it's all about this self-indulgence and self-loathing piece that I'm not interested in. So at that point, I can sort of secure it until further up the line they become problematic. The fact that they start to notice Matt never attends anything, but I doubt they'll even care. That's the good thing. But the reason I sort of bring this up is you can work in these environments if you have to, because if you're siloed off, I'm siloed off. I've been siloed off for at least 6 months now. And the bizarre thing is when it gets mentioned, they just blank it because they know it's true. It doesn't bother me because, to be perfectly honest, when you do surveying, you often work alone or you're engaged with other surveyors. So, for example, if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see a lot of engagement from surveyors, lifecycle managers, and people that are involved in building models, etc. It is not middle level managers that are busy stabbing each other in the back. Even when I finish courses, it's actually other people that I know and whatever that like say well done. You know, nobody in my business ever says well done for anything. Not that it bothers me. The fact is, I just notice these things because you see patterns. There is something going on between them, and they do it to each other. So it's not like I feel like I'm a victim here. I couldn't care less. But you just got to recognise it and get what you want out of it. So for example, what am I getting out of it? Well, for a start, because they need all this data, I do blocks of trips into the UK. So I'll go in and I'll hit London for a few weeks solid. Then I'll come back to Spain, spend time with the family, so I've got good work-life balance. My degree, I'm doing that for my benefit. The company didn't want involved in it. Well, they sort of tried to piggyback on it. It was a bit weird because I actually said I didn't want them involved, but for some reason they ended up involved, and it's to do with the college as well, the university. But even that, it's very obvious. As soon as it involved doing anything, they don't want to know because it's already been picked up with my tutor and stuff, and the response I got was quite negative. Like, do we realise you're doing this off your own back? But I'm not particularly bothered because the good thing is we're doing a degree course in something that I'm already capable of. So you notice I didn't say good at or excellent at. I said capable of. Because the fact is, my view is on leadership and management, it's a progressive. Leadership is also something I strongly believe is leaders are born. You know, Alexander the Great, for example, he was born a leader. You see these people naturally go to, and that's what I call leadership. Everything else is sort of management. You can direct people, and it's a key piece on whether you're managing a situation or leading in a situation. And I heard there was I can't remember where I was listening to it. It's to do with I think it might have been a Simon Sunak thing, where he was talking about on an island where somebody thought they'd seen a camp or a village or something because they crashed on the island. So there's sort of like, I think originally there was one group, and then they said, oh, we'll go, I think I've seen this on the other side of the island, I'm going to go. Then half them sort of went with that person. They got there and there was nothing there, and he says, look, I'm sure there's something, I'm going to go with it, I'm going to carry on. And then it sort of splits again. The leadership piece on that is the fact that they made a decision and kept with it and kept going. The management piece would be to stay where you are and try and work with what you've got. And that's where, even when it's pretty obvious that there wasn't somebody there, he still was driven to actually go, well, I'm sure I'm going to drive forward. Which I can understand, because if you look at Bravo 20, if you ever read that book about the SAS, when they're going through walking through the desert at night, etc. It's about carrying on. That's a strong thing to be doing. If you watch Patriot on Amazon Prime, there's a bit in there where he's explaining getting through 5 electric fences, and it's like, how do you get through 5 electric fences? And the point is to get more than halfway. It's one more step. So once you get to 2.5 and you've crossed your foot across the third one, the answer is one more. it's like one more step, because now it's now easier to go forward than back. So even though you're getting electrocuted, it's that brute force that drives you through it to say, I'm now over halfway, I've got to keep going. It's the same on the treadmill. I do this thing where I break, because I'm a numbers person. So say I'm going on there for 30 minutes, I will actually start going, okay, it's 2.5 minutes. I'm going to run for another 2.5. I'll run for 2.5 minutes. Then I'll drop down and sort of a like fast walk for 2.5 minutes, and then I'm going to run for 2.5 minutes. I broke it down the first 10 minutes into 2.5 minute sections to push myself to keep moving. I don't think about the 30 minutes. It's about driving it forward. Well, what's my point in all this? I know there's so many things on this, but the point being is you need to make the environment you're in the environment that suits you, not suits others. Now, it may blend with what they want, or they may hate it. Going above and beyond may irritate the hell out of some of the people I work with, but at the same time, I don't care. I'm there for a function. I'm doing the function bit. I'm doing my day work, and then I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, spend a lot of time on software, spend a bit of time on things like these guys, working on the drone stuff. I'm not locked into people having petty arguments and then not sleeping at night because you're worried about what people are saying or what they're doing and all that crap that people try and do to you. That's sometimes, especially the narcissists, where they want you. That's their sweet spot of making your life hell, making you uneasy, making you insecure, creating anxiety, creating problems. Do not let people walk you into that stuff. Do your job well, and then control the situation around you. Keep things based. If you're not sure where something is, step back and reflect. Hang on a minute. I've been doing the same job for 5 years. What's changed in the last 6 months? Oh, that twat I'm working with. So yeah, so my work's been okay for 5 years. So what's their issue? And you don't even need to ask them what their issue is, because they'll be projecting, trying to create issues, and then you start looking at it and then manipulating it in a positive way. You know, if somebody says, I don't like the report this way, go, okay, please send over the format you would like. Doesn't need to be argumentative or whatever. Don't have to go, well, it's been the same for 5 years. Oh, look at you, it's creating another problem, aren't you? Always a problem. Every week we're a problem. Keep it positive, because it's very likely they haven't got another format and they don't actually know. I've had similar stuff recently. I go, fine, don't worry about it. I don't like the way you present your reports. Okay. And? What do you want me to do about it? I'm not losing any sleep over it. Yeah. Well, I'll rewrite it. I'll do it the way I want. Do what you like. I do my work. I'm here during the working day. You've made it very obvious this isn't a career move in here. It's fine. Studying, messing with the drone, spending time with the kids, going to see Green Day this weekend with my son, enjoying the good weather. If you empower these people, they will make your life difficult. Learn to read people. One of the problems I will say, and it is a problem, is I've been able to read people too easily these days. I've picked up on some of the problems with a certain individual within, I think it was 3 days. And you think, well, that's 3 days. Yeah, I wasn't working with them. I only had 2 meetings, and I could see straight away, straight through them. They didn't know what they were doing. A lot of the stuff they were talking about was just made up. And some of their personality was screaming out of it, and it hasn't got any better. But what I find weird is when people try to scream to you about they're not the person that you think they are, and yet you haven't actually said anything, it's because they're picking up that you already know. So you become more defensive without saying a word. But when I say defensive, it's not about being overly defensive. It's about just getting on with your job, not engaging too much on personal life, not giving too much away, keeping your stuff to yourself. They don't need to know about my wife and kids. They don't need to know about my personal life, because they'll use it for manipulation. They're not your friends. Oh dear, we've covered a lot. That's 45 minutes gone already. So my whole point on work stuff is, if you are having a hard time, firstly, those people ain't there forever. Secondly, you can manage it or leave. Thirdly, do you actually enjoy what you're doing? And is it easier to do something else, or maybe you want to focus on promotion and then switch off from the crap that you're dealing with and do what I'm doing, do a degree, and then step up and move across. Then you're away from them in the long term. Don't let them take control of everything you've got, because if you let them, they'll play with you like a cat with a mouse. They're vile people. They're manipulative, and they just find their fun in it, and sometimes they don't even know they're doing it. That's what's wrong with some of the problems, is that they don't even recognise it. That's what's really bad. Now we're on to something a bit more interesting. Identity. It's an interesting topic because it's been coming up more and more lately. Somebody mentioned it, I think it was this morning, or I read it this morning, about the problems that we're facing in a lot of politics right now. It's about the loss of identity, and I have to admit, I 100% agree with that. See, the thing is, whether it's woke culture, LGBTQ, or immigration, migration, whatever, a lot of it is people are expecting you to just bend over and take it in the UK. Or the US, or whatever. My identity, as I've said before, is I'm Scottish Irish with a hint of Denmark. I'm Viking, Viking, Celt, whatever. I'm not Afro-Caribbean. I am white, and my entire race is white, where I come from, and my religion. Although I don't have a religion directly, I respect religions that mean no harm, and B, that they often, not all, often, give people direction and hope. So although I don't have a religion belief myself, I respect religion, and it has its value and its own purposes. So my point being is, I may not be directly focused on, should have a church, should have this, or whatever. I respect it. Here in Spain, we have all the religious festivals, saint this and saint that. I respect it. We have parades. We have people letting fireworks off at silly o'clock in the morning as they walk through with the statues and stuff. Whereas in the Philippines, you go the 12 days of Christmas, and at like 3 o'clock in the morning, everyone's knocking the door and everyone's going to the church. And there's so many people that the loudspeakers are out, and the church in Indonesia is full, and the people are down the streets on both sides for the congregations for the 12 days up to the run up to Christmas. What I like on that stuff is the congregation of people coming together for one thing. The fact that they know everyone's going to the church, and you'll get people stopping and picking people up along the way because everybody's going. It's not, oh well, we've got the nice car, to hell with everybody else. It's like everyone's going to the church. For me, that's an empowering thing for people. It's a direction, it's a purpose, it's belonging. The same as identities. My personal identity is I have a strong connection with Scotland and Ireland. I have a strong connection with the Philippines. I have a strong connection with Spain. But my heritage is Scottish Irish. Do I celebrate St. Paddy's Day? Not really. Do I celebrate Hogmanay, Burns Night? Not really. But did I go and spend a bit of time around Edinburgh, going to the historical sites around Robert the Bruce and good old Braveheart? No, it wasn't Mel Gibson's place. The answer is yes. I went to many places through Scotland, the same as I get a feeling I've been at home when I cross from Carlisle, coming up from England to Scotland when it rains, because it always seems to rain when I cross the border. The same as when you go up into the borders. There's a strong feeling of being at home. The same as my wife will tell you, I like being in the storms and rains. I like being out at sea in the storms and rains. There was a thing that happened in the Philippines. It was quite funny because we're in a Banter, which is like it's like these wooden boats made out of plywood and well, it's a wooden boat. And we're out in the water, and it's quite a job. They've got outriggers, which are basically you got like timbers going out, then long timbers to sort of balance the boat. And they're getting twisted like mad, because it's like as if the boat's starting to break up. And I'm enjoying it because the waves are like this, and the water's coming up and over. I'm like, I feel at home. And then I look round, and then there's kids with life jackets and stuff crying. I thought, okay, everyone's a bit worried on this. But for me, it's obviously related to heritage and the connections with either Scottish weather or the what do you call it, the Vikings or whatever. It's something in my genetics that loves it. Watching the lightning crash off the sea and whatever, I love that. It's that is so relaxing for me. What other people around me are thinking are about to die. But the fact is, that's my connections. You got to understand that what they're trying to do to the UK is not good, it's not correct, and it's not right. The UK about being multiculturalism, about all accepting and all the stuff that they're trying to push, that's globalization. We want to maintain our identity and heritage. Whether people like it or not, we want to maintain it. If our kids don't have their heritage and identity, why do you think you've got people running around doing stupid things in London? Why do you think people start becoming more likely to be addicted? Why do you think these problems are becoming more magnified and more complex? People need sense of purpose, they need sense of identity, they need sense of belonging. We need to stop eroding it and actually support it. I think back to my childhood, and you think about when you used to have the brass bands doing the parades, and you have your majorettes and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if you guys all had this, because in Scotland and Ireland it's quite common. Same as some of my relatives being tied in with the orange marches and stuff. There's a sense of identity. Coming from a military family, I've got a strong connection with the armed forces, always will have. So it's like eroding the Union flag. There's a complexity of the Union flag, because people say Union Jack, and the Jack relates to a ship. It's when it's on a ship. It's the Union flag. And some people don't understand it's a combination of the different nations that form the Union flag. This is how far we have fallen. That people don't even recognise what the Union flag stands for. It's a symbol of unity of the nations that form the United Kingdom. I'm not for independence of the nations. I think that firstly the countries are small. Secondly, I don't think it's got any benefit. I mean, let's face it, if you want to talk corruption, having more MPs means more corruption. Oh look, what's happened with little Jimmy Cranky in Scotland at the minute? And was it the partner or whatever? And then obviously stuff that happened with Salmond. Do we really need another set of governments to create other issues? My view is the answer is no, because unless they're actually representing the people, no. Sturgeon, that was her name. But my sense of identity is Scotland, Ireland, Denmark. I'm going to visit because I don't know what my connection is there, whether I feel at home or not. So why do I feel the connection with Spain and the Philippines might be the question next. Spain is different because when I arrived in Spain originally, it was that holiday thing. When you arrive and it's warm, it feels welcoming, it feels friendly, you feel like you've arrived. These days it's home. When I get off that plane at Alicante, it's you've arrived. You're 30 minutes from the house, you're 30 minutes from your kids, you're 30 minutes from your wife. You're back where you belong. That's what that means. Philippines, similar. But even when I first went to the Philippines, it was like the plane. I remember going over Cebu as the plane come round, and I could see the ocean, you know, with the glistening water, little fishing boats, and then the palm trees and the beach, and it was just like, wow, this just feels right. This feels like I belong here. And then once, you know, getting all the bustle and all the chaos, it was perfect. I mean, the weird thing is when I first met my wife, I'll tag this on as a positive thing on this one, because when I arrived at Cebu, my wife thought I'd be quite a chubby foreigner. So we talked online and stuff, and if you want to know about how we actually met, there's a bit of a story to that as well. It's all a bit random, but got through immigration, and my wife April, she's outside. I'm texting her saying I'm just arrived, and she's sort of thinking, is he there or is he not? Is he not got on the flight? And I'm thinking, oh my God, what if she's not outside? And you just like that moment of doubt of whether this is happening or not, and you just get outside and it's just an empty street. But I got through the immigration, and you come down. I think there is an escalator there, and the doors open, and the police, the guards are keeping relatives and stuff to the other side of the street, so that I think the minibuses and that can come across. And there's a pedestrian walk, and then there's a gate that crosses over. And that side is just full of people. I mean, it's probably at least 200, 300 people, you know, waiting for relatives and stuff. And I instantly could see April's smile beaming out of the back of this crowd. Instantly, it's just bang. And we just hit it off from that day forward. That's it. We've pretty much been together. Even when I'm working, we're still in touch a lot of the time. We're just happy around each other. We're just content just being in the same room and stuff like that. It's not like there has to be any drivers or need or any. It's just that connection. And I will say, if you've got that in a relationship, you've got a relationship for life. Because it's not about money, it's not about jealousy, it's not about arguments, it's not about problems, it's just, you're just together. And we've been like that the whole time. People find us a bit odd in that sense, that we just chilled out. Because even when my wife gets, when she was out in the Philippines, when I was traveling backwards and forwards for work and stuff, she had friends, you know, where they're coming back to the Philippines from overseas, want to go out for the day, you know, out for a night out, for a meal and that, with their, you know, catch up with their classmates and stuff. And I asked my wife, oh, what did your husband say? And it's like, he says, just do what you want. You know, you want to go out, go out. And I go, oh yeah, my husband won't do that. He's like, no, I ain't home, you ain't going out. Where I'm more like, why are you asking me? But I've always been on the side of, basically, you know, people will say to me, well, what if your wife would leave you? It's like, if your thoughts are down that path, you've already lost. Because if you're happy and content, neither are you going to leave each other. If you're in a space where you trust each other, you check in with each other, how's your day going, how do you feel, all that sort of stuff, which we do on a regular basis, you're in the right space. Doesn't mean we're always perfect, doesn't mean that we're Instagram or something, you know, a false front on anything. We do have some hard times. I mean, we've lost a lot of family members. We've had typhoons, we've had some, you know, proper stuff. I mean, we went through Typhoon Haiyan, we went through some earthquakes. We had the roof ripped off one of our buildings a couple of years back. We've had to help out with medical stuff and things like that, which I'm not going into because it's family stuff. But we function as a family unit. Yeah, me and my wife, we're locked. We're one. And I'm a strong believer. You know, people hate the patriarchy. I'm a strong believer in like a pyramid. So we look after each other. Not just about me and my wife. It's like I look after my in-laws. I try to look after my parents, a bit more complex. Try to look after my siblings, extremely more complex. But I try to function as a group. The strength is in the group, hence the importance of identity, being part of something, being part of your group. And this is, even with my kids, I talked about the importance of good friends, because you may be lucky enough to get 5 good friends. And the basis, I say, you know, my wife, funny enough, was saying this to the neighbour, because today is a day off, the bank holiday in the UK. So I was out painting and doing the balustrades in the garden. And my wife, the neighbour, said, well, Matt needs to get some friends. He's always working on his days off and stuff. And my wife said to Madalena next door, says, Matt doesn't want any friends. He doesn't like them. He says to complicate his life. And there's stuff that happened recently I can't even talk about, related to stuff that's happened to 5 people that are friends. You know, it's just the fact is I do have a lot of friends, but I like my own space. You know, I work too hard to, you know, in fact Richard's supposed to be messaging me today because we'll go for a beer who's about. But one of the problems I have is my time is so important to me, so I try to spend a lot of time with my family because I'm away from home a lot, so I prioritise family. It's not that I dislike people, but I do find that I do have some complicated friends sometimes where you go, oh my God, what have you done? You know, from a legal perspective and stuff. Not that I've done anything, it's just the fact that sometimes I need to help them out. But yeah, identity is important, extremely important. Um, I think the immigration stuff's absolutely out of its comfort zone. Let's put it that way. Um, yeah, I'll leave it at that because it's not something we'll fix in 5 minutes. Um, we already covered looking back. I was talking about Germany and stuff, where I look back on previous times and the good and bad, and I think when I look at the miners' strikes and the 80s, and my parents not having a lot of money because when my dad in the army and stuff, there was certain times we never went without. Don't get me wrong, but we weren't exactly living it up. And this is the other thing that people forget. If you look back to the late 70s and 80s, just have a look at the photos. Look how much stuff people had. Having a big cathode ray TV in the sitting room with its wood effect box that you would sit around with the whole family and just watch whatever is on the channels that are available. For me, that was, your Friday night, Saturday night stuff. Unless you're going to where the mess do or the discos, when you're younger, go to the kid discos. Yeah. I don't know if that stuff still goes on. I think this is the problem. I think a lot of this stuff's been wiped out, and these are all your community stuff. This is all your things that bring people together. This is where all your friends come from. This is where you have these connections with people that you may not know otherwise, because you may know them in school but you don't really talk, but you go to the disco and suddenly you find out you've got the same interest in the same bands or whatever, and you get connections and you get good mates or a girlfriend or something. But yeah, I do think it's important. That's what I think, the thing with the moment with the Sunak on about this bloody national service nonsense. I've got to admit, I do think national service would be beneficial, but I don't believe in it being forced, because quite simply, I'm sure if you're wealthy, your kids ain't going to be doing it. If they're not doing it, why should you do it? I do think it helps people with discipline and character, etc. And I do think if it can take people away from their bad environments, it can be a positive thing. But I'd also say they need to have a look at what they've been doing to the army first before encouraging people to go down that route, because that's an absolute sham. It's a mess. But I think we've covered enough topics today. This is the longest video I've done. But what I want to finish off with is the positive in all this. Is reflect on everything. So I look at my kids and they're happy. That's the key to it. If my kids are happy, I've done a good job there. My wife's happy. The house, we're happy at home. We got a few books, to read. It gives me a bigger bit of knowledge. I could say manipulation, but I'm not actually manipulating people. I'm just understanding what they're up to, and the way they think or the way they come to conclusions. It's like that, putting that mat down, about jumping to conclusions. Stand here to jump to conclusions. I'll put another one over there with conclusions on it. It's understanding people, and that's the key to a lot of the stuff out there, is actually understanding other people's perspectives. When people are talking about the immigration thing, it's often one-sided, whether it's pro or against. The bit in the middle keeps getting removed. My simple context on that is who's paying for it and what's the effects on the next generations. My job's pretty secure because, thanks to the demise of Carillion and it being tediously boring, very few people actually want to do it, and very few people understand it, which means it will continue until I retire. That's just the grim reality of it. What's the positive side? Well, that's it. You know, I look at the reality of the space I'm in now and where do I want to be. So the space I'm in now, I got where I am now, the house. Well, I want a farm. I want a small farm. I've been looking at it. My son's got really excited because he's thinking him and his mates will hang out there. It's a bit young yet, but seen a spot for nearly 7,000 square meters for I think it's 30,000 euros. This is probably about 45 minutes drive from here. There's no roof on the building. It looks like an old Roman site, but I am tempted. I just need to have a proper look at it. The main thing is, has it got water? Electric I'm not fussed about. Internet I'm not fussed about. Hello Starlink, hello solar panels. But having those locations are good. Also looking at motorbikes. I'm thinking of getting a Harley at the minute, but also looking at the Indian bikes up at Alicante as well. So I'm doing my Spanish motorcycle license at the minute. This is the key to all of this. As you probably noticed, I don't focus on what's going wrong, I focus on what's going right, and I focus on where I want to go. Although I'm not sure where work's going at the minute, doesn't mean I don't move forward. You align, you adjust, you make sure that you can progress. You look where you are now. My mortgage is nearly paid. I've got a loving wife, I've got fantastic kids. I've got a location that people wait till they retire to go and live in, and I'm already at it. I've already got it. The only bit I need is a consistent income, and it doesn't need to be mega income, and I can be here full time. I only need a garage to put the motorbike in and the farm. But like I said, see, the good thing about me is, like, say buying a farm for 30,000 euros, which is nothing, right? It is really nothing. I can pretty much guarantee if I bought something like that and says, look, whoever helps with it can live there free for a year. You just sort yourself out. I don't need to live there. I just want to go out there and chill there. Obi and his mates will want to come out and, I don't know, go shooting and doing things like that, you know, because he's got his bow and arrow and stuff. And to be fair, I'll probably get me get him a small air rifle or something, and then they can develop their own building stuff there. You know, the whole point being is, I try to give my kids the opportunity to have a fairly wild but controlled environment to be the best, you know, to create the best memories for them, at the same time progressing. So like I say, tonight my son's just come back from piano lessons, so he has a lot of discipline, he has a lot of stuff he has to do. So he's got his piano twice a week, he's got piano twice a week, he's got his karate twice a week, he's got his maths tutor on the weekend, and he has a busy school week, and at the same time he will come and play guitar and piano next door in his spare time as well, because he loves it. He's got past that point of this is boring. He's actually clicked with it, enjoys it. And like yesterday, he's at his friend's place. He went because my son's got two keyboards. He's got a full size one, and he had an original one I got him just to practice with, to see if he wanted to do it. Well, that one, his friend's place, he's got the drums and stuff, so he's got a lot more kit. You know, in the space-wise, it takes up more room, so it's a bit harder to move stuff around. So he was at his friend's place yesterday, and they were talking about the music and stuff. And I says, look, why don't you just take the other keyboard there and just leave it there? Then you've got the keyboards over there, takes his guitar, and now the band can practice. Now it sounds a bit weird or a bit obvious, but with my parents, it was always a bit tight. So they'd be like, "Oh, why are you leaving it over there?" All that sort of stuff. I'm the opposite, because I look at it and go, you know what? I think of the keyboards there. They've now got, because you got Oscar on drums, my son on guitar, and Shai plays the keyboards. So now the band is pretty much there, and now I've got to pull out my microphones and stuff that I've got for my old podcast stuff and say, there you go, guys. Now you've got to learn to sing. But that's, for me, that's my achievement. Beyond that, I'm chilled. Work has, thankfully, because they make work difficult, they've made it easy. Because when you're trying to be a career climber and stuff, you're trying to focus on making the changes, doing whatever you need, kissing your boss's backside, all that sort of stuff. Now it's got to the point where I'm at a level in this business where there is nowhere else to go. There's only a CEO above me. There's no progression path. There's no opportunities. So it doesn't matter. Worst they can do is go, you're fired. Okay, 3 months notice, and I sort the job out within a week. That's my worst case scenario. So am I bitter but annoyed? No. It means I just do my work, 9 to 5, and that's it. Not 6 in the morning, drive to London, get home at 10 at night. Those days are only working when I'm in London. You know, I've got my London weeks, because then I recover when I'm here, because it's family time. In the UK, not too fast, because I'm not doing that. There's not a lot to do where I am beyond going to the gym or watching TV, so I don't mind working a little bit harder short term. But the focus is not because the business needs it, it's the fact is it suits me. For years I did it to make the business work. When I was out in the Middle East, I did up to a 20-hour day, and that was for 7 days a week for one stint, 4.5 months, 7 days a week, up to 20 hours a day. Short day was 14 hours. Those days are gone. But anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you to it. But have a great evening, weekend, week, whatever you're doing. And thanks for watching. And please comment, because at the moment, not enough comments. What do you want to talk about? What do you want to change? What do you want to think about? And I'm thinking about, I've got to do the treadmill now, and I can see this being covered in sweat in about 15 minutes. Alright, take it easy. Take care.